Hello everyone, welcome. Today we're taking a look at two of the most popular notebooks for writing, bullet journaling, and planning. We're going to take a real deep dive approach to reviewing the Stalogy 365 and the Leuchtturm 1917. I will, as per usual, put links in the description to everything I talk about today in case you'd like to grab something for yourself or a gift for someone else. And I will also put timestamps in the first pinned comment in case you'd like to jump back and forth between the sections, because we're going to talk about the size, the weight, the extras, the paper color, the formats that are available. We'll do a thorough pen test including brush pens, fountain pens, watercolor, correction tape, all that. And we will also look at the covers that fit these two notebooks. Now, full disclosure, I have used both of these a lot, so I know them both pretty well. I think I am on my 6th Stalogy, and this is my 2nd Leuchtturm with the 80 GSM paper. They also make a 120 GSM. I am not going to discuss that today because it's so completely different than the Stalogy and the 80 GSM Leuchtturm. Its paper feels, to me, a little bit more like cardstock. I have done a separate comparison of the 80 versus the 120 for the Leuchtturm, and I will put a link to that in the description if you'd like to go back and look at it. But today we're comparing more apples to apples in terms of paper weight and performance with the Stalogy and the 80 GSM Leuchtturm. All right, so first of all, size. These are both considered A5. They both have other sizes available, but today we're looking at the A5. For the Stalogy, it's 5 7/8 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches tall. That's 149 millimeters by 210 millimeters. The Leuchtturm is just ever so slightly smaller. You probably wouldn't even notice it. It's 5 3/4 inches wide by 8 3/16 inches tall, which is 148 millimeters by 208 millimeters. So just a tiny fraction smaller than the Stalogy. Weight. The Stalogy is 12 ounces, and the Leuchtturm 1917 80 GSM is 15 ounces. What extras are included? Well, with the Stalogy, there aren't any extras. So you pop it open like this, and what you end up with is purely a notebook. It has a couple of logos here in gold, little logos and statements. It's just part of their design, nothing else. You open it up, there's nothing else. It's just the notebook with gray end pages. There aren't even any logos inside. It's just clean and streamlined, just like that. The Leuchtturm 1917, when we open this one up, we also have a little information sheet, which we can pop off like this. And with the Leuchtturm, you do have an elastic band, which in my experience usually stays pretty taut, just the right tension as you use it. When you open it up, it does come with some stickers that you can use for labeling it. It has an area in the front to put your name and contact information for a reward. It has a table of contents, 2 pages to use for that, a little blank space, and then it gets into whatever format you've selected, and we'll talk about those in a minute. It's got logos a lot of places. So you have a logo inside here. You have a logo inside the end page. You have a logo inside the last end page here. You have a logo on the outside of the end page in the back, and you have a logo embossed on the back cover. But honestly, once you're using it, those do not seem very intrusive. You do have a pocket with the Leuchtturm, and you have 2 bookmarks, and in my experience they've been well sewn, they don't fall apart, and they usually color coordinate with the cover itself. Colors that are available. The Stalogy typically, especially on Amazon, comes in black, yellow, a really pretty like a robin's egg blue, and red. But if you go to Etsy, and I will put a link to the specific shop, you can usually find some of the more obscure colors because they put out limited edition colors sometimes. With the Leuchtturm 1917, there are usually approximately 20 colors available, and that's just on Amazon. You can just click through and select which ones are in stock. Cover quality-wise, they are really about the same. I have been able to use both of these without another cover, just throwing them in my tote bags, and I've not had any problems with them breaking down over the time that I use them. It usually takes me about 3 months to get through a notebook, and these hold up remarkably well. The binding is perfect on the Stalogy. I've never had a problem whatsoever. Wonderful sewn binding, but it's also reinforced in such a way that you really can never even tell that you've opened it, and yet it opens perfectly flat from the start. You don't have to do any kind of notebook yoga to get this to lay flat. It's just boom, flat. So that's a wonderful, wonderful point. And the cover itself feels good in your hand. It kind of feels a little bit like a moleskin cover. And if you dribble a little bit of water on it, it'll just brush right off. Very well designed. The Leuchtturm 1917 cover, this is hardcover. They do make a soft cover option, but I've never had one. I've never really had a purpose for one. I like that the hardcover is easy to write on your lap, and I like that it includes extra pages. There are more pages in the hardcover than there are in the softcover. So really, really, really good quality here as well. I've never had an issue with it feeling like it was falling apart. The only problem with the Leuchtturm is that as I'm writing, sometimes I feel like it can feel like it's a little bit bowed, if that makes sense, over time. And it's because, like, if you're sitting here writing on your lap and you go like this, I don't know about you, but I tend to hold my notebook like this, put your thumb here, and you write, and it sort of bends it a little bit. And because it's hardcover, sometimes it can kind of take on that shape. So occasionally you'll end up with a little bit of bowing, but honestly, it has not kept me from purchasing another one. It's such a minor issue. As far as opening, we pop this open, and also just like the Stalogy, no need for any kind of notebook yoga. It just opens flat. Okay, so in that case, they're both very similar. They're well made, they open flat, they're easy to write in. With the Stalogy, if you're writing on your lap and you need, let's say you're at those first pages and you need something behind it, you can just fold it over on itself and write like this. With the Leuchtturm, if you're sitting and writing on your lap, you have the hardcover as the backing, and so you can just write. All right, what formats are available? The Stalogy comes in this grid, which is unobtrusive. I think it is a 4 millimeter, 1, 2, 3. It's like 3.5 or 3.75. It's really hard to measure. But let's say 3.5 to 4 millimeter grid for the A5 size. And it's really, really light. If you can see this, it's there when you need it. It kind of fades into the background when you don't need it. So I have enjoyed the grid on this. That is the standard for the Stalogy. They do sometimes make a blank. They do sometimes make a dot grid. I will put a link to any of those if I can find them on sale at this time. They're not always available, but grid is the go-to for Stalogy. With the Leuchtturm 1917, there's blank, dot grid, square grid, and 6 millimeter rule. The square grid is 5 millimeter, which is larger than the Stalogy square grid. And the rule, like I said, is 6 millimeter. That's what this one is. The kind of, how bright, how bold is the line? Well, as you can see here, it's kind of the same as the Stalogy, where as you use it, it'll fade into the background, but it's there when you need it to write. Here, as you can see, this is the Stalogy with this very, very light gray, and this is the Leuchtturm, which is slightly darker gray. Page number wise, Stalogy 365, you can either get the full year, which is 368, or they also make a half year. With the Leuchtturm 1917 hardcover, it's 251 pages. Page numbers, Stalogy, no. Page numbers, Leuchtturm, yes. Even on the blank pages, you will have page numbers down here in the right corner. Nice and tiny there when you need them, not obvious when you don't. Other markings on the pages, Stalogy, I know one person who uses this feature. Hello, you know who you are, vegan organizer. There is one person that I know who takes this like January, February, March, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and highlights or circles those and actually uses it in their recording purposes. And I'm putting up like real close to the camera. I don't even know if this will focus on this. It is so tiny. I think that I have good eyesight and I seriously cannot read this. I actually had somebody comment and say that they didn't even know it was there until I pointed it out in a video. So Stalogy is designed to be a planner, and it has this where you can mark the date. I seriously pretend it does not exist. It does not impede any of my writing or painting or sketching or planning. It's just there. Super tiny up in the top right corner of every spread. The Leuchtturm 1917 also has something at the top. It says datum and date here, German and English, and a space to write the date. In all honesty, I usually write straight over that with a bold black brush pen when I title the pages as I'm journaling. So again, it's there. I tend to just completely ignore it. Okay, let's get to the really fun part. Let's do pen tests on these. And through the magic of YouTube, I've already done them. So I took a Stalogy and a Leuchtturm that I had already used, and I did the exact same pen test and paint test on both of these. Let me walk you through everything that is included on each of these, and then we'll flip the page and see how they performed. We have a Zebra Sensations brush pen, which is pigment-based and water-resistant. Uniball Signo RT1. 0.5 millimeter, that is a gel pen, which is water resistant. A Sharpie pen, not the marker, the Sharpie pen, which is a porous point pen, felt tip essentially. Then we have a correction tape. This is a Tombow mono correction tape. On the Stalogy, it is exactly the same color as the paper, which as you can see is a bit more white compared to Leuchtturm's cream-colored paper. So the correction tape seamlessly blends into the background on the Stalogy. On the Leuchtturm, you can kind of see it. Once you start writing over it, it's not, truly obvious, but you can definitely tell that that correction tape is there and has been used. The Pilot G2, Pilot Precise Grip Extra Fine, that's a roller ball. Papermate Flare, which is a porous point, kind of felt tip pen, super popular right now. Y&C Gel Extreme 0.5 is a gel pen. Let's see, on the Leuchtturm I did a Uniball Vision Needle Micro. And then back to the same Papermate Ink Joy 0.7. I did on both of these. That is a gel pen. I also did the 0.5 on the Stalogy. Then we go Sakura Pigma Micron 03 size. That is a technical drawing pen, which is porous point and it is water resistant. Pentel Fude Touch. Pentel Fude Touch is a very inky dye-based brush pen which tends to bleed through a lot of papers. Sharpie Ultra Fine Marker and Sharpie Fine Point, just the typical juicy new Sharpie marker. Pilot Varsity Fountain Pen. I am not a fountain pen user, but I understand that the Pilot Varsity is a pretty juicy fountain pen. I've also got here and then down here a Zebra mild liner highlighter, and that's over a Uniball Signo. Then I have an Atoya calligraphy marker, which lays down a lot of ink. A Marvy artist marker also lays down a lot of ink. It's pigment based. It tends not to bleed through most papers. Faber-Castell Pitt artist brush pens, which are pigment based. And then down here we have watercolor. So I've tried both Mei Liang Pretty Excellent, which is typically more dye-based and more likely to bleed through, and White Nights, which are way more highly pigmented and tend to just sit on top of the paper, and they tend to not bleed through. So, drum roll please. Let's look at the results here. So here's the Stalogy on the left and the Leuchtturm on the right, and we'll kind of push this down because when you're doing a pen test and the pages lift up, it kind of changes how the results look. Also, if you did your pen test at the end and for some reason you had like a dark surface behind it or a dark end page, that will also change the results. It'll be a bit of an optical illusion. So you need to make sure that your pen test is resting on white paper behind it or blank paper behind it, and that it's pushed all the way down so it's not hanging up in the air. And when we look at those results, I think you can see that they're quite similar actually. The only things that truly bleed through on the Stalogy are a Pentel Fude Touch brush pen, which is very dye-based, Sharpie Ultrafine, and Sharpie Fine Point. And then, this is arguable, the Pilot Varsity fountain pen on the Stalogy, I don't think it bleeds, but it ghosts very, very heavily. So that'll be mileage may vary with fountain pens. It will depend on your nib sizes and your inks. With the paint on the Stalogy, the Mei Liang Pretty Excellent, which is more dye-based, has a little spot right here. I wouldn't call it bleed through, but I can definitely tell that the dye really wants to come through. So probably if I had painted, a heavier wash, or if I had been like a lot more detailed and painting, layer after layer, I might have some bleed through with that watercolor because it's the cheaper dye-based kind of watercolor. With the artist grade watercolor, which is more highly pigmented, there's no bleeding whatsoever. With the Leuchtturm, as far as bleeding, it looks like, again, the Pentel Fude Touch bleeds just a little bit. The Sharpie Ultrafine does not. It's very heavily ghosting, but it is not bleeding. The Sharpie marker, I think you can see the difference between the Stalogy here, where it totally bleeds through, and the Leuchtturm, where it kind of bleeds through. That fountain pen shows through less on the Leuchtturm, and the paint shows through less on the Leuchtturm. I'm not getting that dye kind of look coming through on the Mei Liang on the Leuchtturm like I was on the Stalogy. Now let's look at ghosting. I would definitely say that the Stalogy ghosts more. If I compare these like right up next to each other here, you can definitely see what you're writing more clearly through the Stalogy than you can on the Leuchtturm. I mean, neither one is perfect. If you're the kind of person who doesn't want to see anything on the other side of the page, then you're going to want to bump up to something like a 120 GSM Amshoy or a 120 GSM Leuchtturm, or even higher, like a 160 GSM, which Odyssey makes, and also I think it's the same paper that Archer and Olive has. So if you don't want to see anything, you're going to want to get those papers that are heavier and start feeling a little bit more like a lighter cardstock. But as far as like a notebook like this, where you've got 251 pages or 368 pages of slightly thinner paper, you're definitely going to see something. That's kind of hard to get away from. You're going to see something. But in my experience, using both of these notebooks, we are being very, very picky here. And once you start actually using them, you're going to find that you've written a whole page here, you flip it, you write a whole page here, and you're going to realize that you're not even noticing. that ghosting is gonna fade into the background. This is a personal thing, but I really don't care about ghosting that much. What I care about is bleed through, because when you get like the Sharpie like this, you're obviously not gonna be able to use the other side of the page. But because it's just that Pentel Fude touch, a Sharpie, or a very juicy fountain pen, then for my purposes, both of these are absolutely usable, no problem. And paint-wise, like I said, I mean, they're very, very similar. I think the Stalogy, I would just need to make sure to use my better quality paints. And the Leuchtturm, like I said, you can get away with more on the Leuchtturm. Okay, so I hope that gives you some insight into both of these. I will tell you that the dry time, we should talk about that here. When I do a pen test, I will write the pen name and then I will just go like this, draw a quick little line and wait 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rub my finger over it. I did not have a problem with smearing on 99% of the things that I tested. On the Stalogy, the only thing that smeared after 5 seconds was a Marvy Artist marker, but any of the pens dried in a reasonable time. With the Leuchtturm, the Pilot G2 smeared just a tiny bit, the Pilot Varsity fountain pen smeared a tiny bit, and the Atoya calligraphy marker smeared a tiny bit. Once I wait more like 10 seconds, there is no smearing whatsoever. Neither one of these is persnickety like Tomoe River that's in a Hobonichi, where you can write and come back a week later and sometimes things will still smear. You don't have that problem at all. The Stalogy and the Leuchtturm have much less coating to them. They would be considered, I would call it a little bit more dry than Tomoe River. Some people have noticed that they have a tooth to them that the Tomoe River doesn't have. It's certainly not a heavy tooth. It doesn't keep me from any of my sketching or drawing or painting. But it's different paper for sure. It feels different than the Tomoe River. And in my case, that's a good thing. I don't like how ice cream paper smooth the Tomoe River and the Hobonichi is, or like Rhodia. I am not a fan of Rhodia. I feel like my pen is skating away from me. I have sometimes had that problem with Apica notebooks as well. But with the Stalogy and the Leuchtturm, there's a comfort zone there, and when I write, I feel like my pen and I are kind of on the same page, and we're working together. So here I am, I'm trying to decide which one of these to use next, and I thought that going through this and showing you, well, the size and the weight and the cover formats and the inside formats and the pen tests, I thought that it would just kind of become clear to me, oh, hey, this is the one you want to use. And honestly, there's not a huge difference. One of the biggest differences here, if you are a prolific writer, is that Tombow mono correction tape. Could it really come down to something as simple as that? You can't see the correction tape on the Stalogy. You can see that you used it on the Leuchtturm. Maybe that's a consideration. Another thing is writing. So here is a journaling test with the Stalogy. Here is a journaling test with the Leuchtturm. The Stalogy does not have lines, and yet I'm able to write nice and straight because I take the grid, I line up my first line, and from there I just use my eyes to keep it in line. The Leuchtturm has lines. That's nice. It's a selling point, but I don't necessarily need them. So here's how journaling looks on both of these. Okay, so what's something else I could use to make my decision? Well, the Stalogy we know is acid-free, but beyond that, I don't know anything about the paper or how it's made. Night Toms, which is the company that makes Stalogy, is not necessarily forthcoming with what in the heck is in it and how is it made. Whereas Leuchtturm 1917, environmentally, it's important to know that it is FSC certified. So it's not recycled paper, but they do work with the forest industry to make sure that they are pulling the paper in an environmentally responsible way and using maybe, I don't know, tree resources that grow back faster. So FSC certified on the Leuchtturm, don't know on the Stalogy. Okay, so let's get into like the ethics of the companies. Where are they based? Where are they made? The Stalogy is made in Japan by a company headquartered in Japan. The Stalogy is just Japan all the way. The Leuchtturm1917 is made by a company in Germany. The company headquarters are in Germany. The factory is in Taiwan. Okay, well, what do they mean? A Stalogy stands for standard and technology. That's the meaning of the name Stalogy. Leuchtturm translates to lighthouse. So this is your standard and technology notebook, and this is your lighthouse notebook. I don't know if that could make a difference for you, but there you go. All right, what about covers that you can put them in? Would that make a difference? Well, no, because they actually both fit in pretty much all the same covers. And let me show you some of those. Okay, so the first option on covers would be something that is not leather, and I don't have it with me today. I gave mine to my mom, but I used mine for years, and now she's used it for a year, and she really enjoys it. It's a Kokuyo Systemic A5 size. It comes in definitely navy, gray, and black. I'm not sure what other colors are available, but I'll link to what I can find in the description. Kokuyo Systemic. Another traveler's notebook, A5 size, that would fit either one or probably both of these. This one was custom made for me by Apple Pig. Apple Pig, as I discuss in a lot of my videos, is a sweet little artisan leather crafting shop in Taiwan. The delightful leather craftsman's name is Ting. He's amazing, and he will work with you to get exactly what you want. So I sketched this out, I designed this, and he made it for me. So it's A5 size plus a little bit bigger just to be roomier for thicker notebooks. You open it up and it goes like this. Look at all those hidden pockets. So on this side you have secretarial pocket, hidden pocket, credit card, 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 or driver's license, or insurance card, or business card, or stickers, or washi samples, whatever you want to go in here. So there's 8 pockets here. Then there's a folio pocket, so I can slip in my notebooks into the covers, or I can just put them on the bands. There are 4 bands. Open up this side, 4 more card pockets, another folio pocket. Then this opens like this. This is his standard design. You pop this open and you can put pens in here, or I like to keep a ruler in here. That closes like that. You have another hidden pocket and 2 more secretarial pockets. What I found works really well is to just pop 1 pen on here and 1 pen on here, like that. And then when I close my notebooks, that goes around it and my pens are not going anywhere. Then you have a Moterm A5 size. This is the brown croc. I'll put a link to whatever's available now. Full disclosure, I got mine a couple years ago and I absolutely adore it. The reviews since then have been a little more iffy, so definitely get it where it says like shipped by Amazon, and then that way you can easily return it if you think that the quality has taken a hit. But mine that I got a couple years ago was awesome. Like I said, this is brown croc. They have several new styles, and if you find a style that you like, you have to get it because sometimes they don't replenish them ever. Like I've never seen this brown croc back in style again. So you open it up and you have so many pockets with the Moterm. 1, 2, 3. So 3 folio pockets. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets here. Come over on the right side, another folio, a secretarial, a pen loop, and then this big pocket in the back for like folded 8.5 by 11 sheets work real well back there. Also church programs fit real well. And 2 bookmarks. And it's a snap closure. This one is the original A5. Now they have what's called the A5 Plus, and I think it has 2 snaps, so you can kind of move it depending on how thick your notebook is. So that's the Moterm. Then we go to Case Elegance. I think it's officially called Bucksaw by Case Elegance, but I'll put the link in the description. This comes in black with like a pebble, and then it also comes in this brown. This brown always looks green on the screen, but I promise it isn't. It's a chocolate brown. Kind of looks Wild West-ish, pretty rustic. And you open it up with a snap, and it has in here like a fabric, like a suede fabric. And then this is like a herringbone fabric, or is that what it's called? Herringbone? Like men's winter dress pants. Okay, so anyway, pocket, pocket, pocket for cards. And there's a little bit deeper pocket here, folio pocket. And then this one, depending on the size of your phone, you know, if you have a skinnier phone, it might fit down in here. And then there's also a pen loop. So plenty of space there. The Case Elegance selling point is that it has some stability in it. I'm assuming it's cardboard, but there's like a stiffness in here so that it still bends a little, but if you put a notebook in here and then you're writing on your lap, it just gives you extra stability. And then Elitso also has, this is an A5 size with a magnetic snap closure. I have used this every day for over a year. This is the chestnut leather, which is my favorite. It definitely reminds me of a baseball glove or a bomber jacket. You open this up and you just have one little pocket here, folio pocket, and a pen loop. And the pen loop is plenty generous enough to do 2 pens if you flip them backwards. You put your notebook in like this, slide it in. Both of these will fit in both the front and the back, so it hugs it. And it's very generously cut. So whether you're using the Leuchtturm or the Stalogy, it is going to swim in this notebook. That's not a bad thing though, because if you start painting a lot and your book expands, or you start, maybe you're junk journaling and you're adding a lot of materials to it and gets bigger and bigger, this will grow with you. It also works for bigger notebooks, like a Hobonichi Tacho Cousin will fit in here with no problem. So very generously cut A5 Leuchtturm with the magnetic snap closure. All right, we've been through everything you can talk about with these notebooks, I think. If you do have any further questions, please feel free to put them in the comments section. However you intend to use these notebooks, enjoy. Thank you. Bye-bye.